we start, Victor, like in the book, looks like a beatific, almost Jesus, with the window behind his head that looks like a halo, and saying how he was born.
When we were shooting, Guillermo was like, it would make this one Mexican very happy if you moved a little bit here so that it's right behind your head.
I say, you think you're following Jesus, and then you realize you're following Charles Manson. But the beauty of that, and the two arcs, and I want to say, the energy of the film is contained in the three first words that the creature speaks: Victor, Elizabeth, and friend. Because that's how he constructs the world. And I think that having them here, it's very easy to understand. They are contained always in the same mirror. They're the same persona, just like the Father and the Son in Catholic religion are consubstantial. So are Victor and the creature. And they realize they need each other towards the end, like any story with a father or a son. You realize that a soul has been divided in two. And that leads me to this brilliant man. Originally the part of the creature was written for another actor. 9 weeks before we started shooting, said actor dropped out. And let's hear it for the wife. I want to ask him to tell a little story that precedes this movie, and it has to do with the Priscilla makeup trailer.
Yes, I quite arrogantly inserted myself into this movie years before. I had read, when I made my first movie, The Kissing Booth, I had read this. Thank you. That's right. Netflix, baby. I was reading tweets about myself because I'm insane and an actor. And one of the tweets said, "This plank of wood is so boring he could play nothing but Frankenstein's creature." I'll never forget that. And I remember reading it when I was like 22, and I was like, that's a great idea. Then when we got to
reviews, very useful.
Then I was in Toronto shooting Priscilla with the same crew that did the hair and makeup and the set design for this, and I was in the makeup trailer putting my wig on to play Elvis, and I remember saying, "What are you guys doing next?" And they said, "We're doing Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein." And I was sort of in the voice of the time when I was doing this thing. And the thing that I employed when I played him was this sort of great arrogance in a way. And I remember saying, "I'm supposed to be in that." and she was like, "Did you audition?" And I was like, no, but I'm meant to be in that movie. And then she said, "Well, no, we have an actor." And I was like, yeah, I know. And then we never talked about it, and then the time passed, and I'm not quite sure why I said it. And then about roughly a year later, I was in Australia shooting a TV show, and I got a
great TV show, by the way.
Yeah, The Narrow Road to the Deep North. If you haven't seen it, it's Amazon. Thank you. No one's seen that. But I got this phone call from my agent, and it said, "There's a script in your inbox, and it's Frankenstein, and you need to read it tonight, and you need to talk to Guillermo tomorrow morning at 5 a.m." And it was like 100 and how many pages?
152.
152 pages. And I had a very little amount of time, but and then I read it, and it was to play the creature, and we spoke in the morning on the phone, and then you know the story from there, because I thought after I hung up the phone that there was no world in which I was going to be a part of the movie.
But Oscar and I were already intensely working together. I can say that we became brothers through making the movie. I consider him family, and we were constantly communicating, texting. Each of the actors got a package of books from me, and we talked about this or that, and Oscar was part of this quest. I was interviewing this actor, that actor, and I would say, "What do you think of this? What do you think of that?" And after I hung up with Jacob, I said, "We have it. We got it." Because I was saying the creature can be either Adam or Jesus. And I wrote him and said, I think we got both. And I want to talk about one thing before we dive into the craft, but the delicate thing about this is the structure of the creature and the father, are done in reverse. Like Victor has all the words, all the notions, all the certainty, and starts very big. We looked at Oliver Reed to make him really bolsterous and big, but sort of heightened reality, because he's remembering the memory of his childhood, or when he was young, is him remembering. Is shot very actively. We can talk about this and that, but that tone starts big and he goes very small at the end. The forgiveness scene, the pardon scene is so delicate and small. And the creature has no words on the beginning. It has only heart. And then gains the words and goes up and becomes more and more complex as a movie. When he first is a notion, then there are words, then there comes the notion of being the child of a charnel house. And finally, it ends in grace with the son. But they both come to this quiet scene at the end. And a father and a son needs to coexist. And the first scene we shot was the final scene. So you want to talk a little bit about that?